So, welcome to our Friday edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. This is our open Q&A session where we provide a forum for transitioning military veterans, military spouses, and allies, which basically means everybody that's trying to learn Salesforce is welcome to come here and ask questions and get help. Anything is fair game as far as Trailhead modules, issues, or challenges that you're having at work. General questions around Salesforce features or functionality, whatever it is, just bring it up and we'll see if we can help you out. The only thing that we ask is that if you have questions around super badges, that is not something that we can address, as that violates Salesforce's policy on completion of those. But generally speaking, anything else is fair game. One other thing, I know we have at least one individual that's here for the first time, but something to keep in mind is that our questions can vary from simple all the way to very complex. Right. So if the questions that we have during the session are overly complex, please don't let that discourage you. We hope that you'll kind of stick with it, listen in, try to glean some information. And if you have clarifying questions or something that you want to expand on a little bit more that might have gone over your head, feel free to chime in. We're happy to to answer all the questions that we can. Before we get started, I just want to point out also that we have a few different ways that you can stay connected to the Military Trailblazer Office Hours community. If you haven't done so already, I would suggest signing up on mtofficehours.com. That way you'll get email reminders of all the different sessions that we have throughout the week. Definitely follow us and follow our page on LinkedIn as well. And then if you want to connect with anybody that was on the call or get notes or other things, you can also join our Slack workspace that we have available as well. So with that, let me stop my share and we'll open up for questions. So all that I ask is that if you have a question, just use the hand raise gesture that's at the bottom of your screen. That way we'll queue up our questions and we'll try to answer everything in order. So that being said, Mickey, I see that you have your hand up. What do you got?
Hey, so I'm still just like from last week, I'm working on the field trip stuff. I ended up downloading Field Pro. I got the go ahead for that. So we were able to install that into a sandbox. And so now I have like sandbox administrator privileges. But what my lead's looking for now is going to be like kind of recommendations. So similar to what Field Trip was all about, where I say that this field I would recommend for deletion, same general concept. So is it okay if I share screen real
Yeah.
quick and just kind of go over what I'm thinking and then take any feedback from there?
Yeah, sure. And while you're sharing the screen, let me just, for those that might not be aware, Field Trip is an app that's available on the Salesforce App Exchange. They have a free version, and I'm learning today that they have a paid version as well. But generally, what Field Trip allows you to do, you basically select an object, let's just say accounts in Salesforce, and it can do an analysis, and it'll tell you for all the fields on the account object, how many are filled in, what percentage of the records have that field populated, and basically just give you some information that would help you clean up your org and maybe get rid of unneeded fields or whatever else you're trying to do. But it helps you with that analysis.
Cool.
Right.
Can you guys
We're
see
seeing an
this?
Excel screen here.
Okay, cool. All right, and then here's Field Pro. And so yeah, Field Pro, I think what I'm seeing here is like field scores. So these are going to be essentially what would be recommended for deletion, especially if they have like a score of 0. Not only does this mean that 0% are populated, so none of those fields are coming through, or nobody's filling those in on Salesforce.
Yeah.
And then these fives are also like a very low score.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if we go back to what I know, right, like what I've kind of worked with in the past is going to be this one. So this is going to be, you guys see the Excel sheet, yes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So from last time, you guys let me know that if it doesn't end in this underscore underscore C, that it's not a default versus custom fields, like out of box fields.
Yep.
And so that one helped a lot. Definitely helped me to sound like I know what I'm doing, which was great. And so now I can mention, all right, we should delete. Obviously, we can't delete our default fields, but we could look into deleting these ones that are 0 used. My lead went through and then highlighted white ones that she still wants to keep. And then we're going to present these to the various sales teams leads and see if they are good with us deleting this. And then this would be the second round of deletions, which are only like onesie, twosies, maybe up to a few hundred that are filled in,
Yeah.
but still less than 1%.
Now let's go all the way to the top again. There's one other thing that I wanted to point out to you, kind of along the same line of that underscore C. So as we mentioned, when you see fields here that don't have that underscore C, that means that they're standard Salesforce fields. You don't have the ability to delete those. The ones that do have underscore C, they are custom fields, and you, in theory, do have the ability to delete those. However, there's one other group that you should be aware of. Look at lines 26, 27, and 28, right? So you notice that they have that word and then double underscores and then the field name.
Mhm.
Basically, anytime you see that word in the beginning followed by two underscores, that means that it's from a managed package, meaning it's something that was installed from the App Exchange. And those fields, you can't necessarily just go and delete them if they're part of that managed package. The way that you would get rid of those would be to uninstall the managed package, right?
Uh,
So something to be aware of. You can't necessarily recommend to delete, line 27 if you're not also intending to uninstall the entire package that field is a part of.
and so
Now,
that would likely be DC3, whatever that would
yeah,
likely
yeah.
be the
So
name of that package
yeah, and
in
that's
this
what I was going
case.
to say. So when you see that, you see a few there that are dupe check underscore underscore, and then you see a couple at the bottom there, which are N2DE. What you can do is you go in Salesforce and you go to setup and then go to the installed packages screen. There'll be a column in there where you'll be able to see, the packages and then what their namespace is. That's what that represents, that N2DE or that dupe check. That's the namespace of that package org. So basically, or that installed package. So basically, any field, any Apex class, any trigger, any Visual Force page, whatever it is that's a part of that package is going to have that namespace attached to it. So
Sweet.
yeah, like I said, if you go to that installed packages, you can see which package they might be associated with.
Awesome. And that makes sense because that's why she wants to save this app.
Well,
Well, this isn't double
I
underscored,
was going
huh?
to say, yeah, that's not a double underscore one. Yeah, but
But this one
those
is
ones down there, yeah.
Joseph. Okay, cool. So she wants to save these because this package is something that we're using. Is
Yeah.
like what I could glean from that. Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Well, the other thing I can't remember if we had talked about this last week, but the other thing to kind of consider as well, just because a field doesn't have any data in it right now, doesn't necessarily mean that it's not being used. So another kind of thing to be aware of, let's just say that you had a field that it's going to be blank 99.9% of the time, but maybe as part of some process, when you modify a record, maybe that field gets populated for a time, and then the record gets processed asynchronously through like a scheduled flow or something like that. And then once the processing is completed, then that field gets blanked out. So the field might still be used. It just might not carry data all the time. Now, I think that's a little safe though, because if you try to delete that field and it's being referenced in a flow, you should get a notification saying, "Hey, you can't delete that field because it's part of this flow," and that'll let you go down that rabbit hole to figure out if that flow is active, is it needed, all that stuff. But yeah, I think what you have here is a pretty good start for, like we said, that phase one of going through and cleaning stuff up.
Do you have any insight into, just because I've never worked with it before, into Field Pro? I know that I'm supposed to create a report. I'm not exactly sure where to create it. So like I can go into a dashboard, and this is just a sandbox, so it's a little bit old data, but that's at least I'm getting some practice. So here I can go to lead and see the number of leads, but I'm not really like that's the number of, so in this dashboard, this 595 is the number of fields that are attached to the lead. And then same with
Yeah.
contact,
So
right? 896 is the number of fields in there.
yeah. Well, keep in mind, anytime you want to create a report, you can do that from the reports tab. But as you're looking at these dashboard widgets here, if you click on that link that's at the bottom left that says view report for that little widget you're looking at, this will take you to that report with that data, and then you can tweak it from here, add additional fields, put additional filters if you just want to focus on a particular object. Um, and yeah, I'm guessing that there's probably other report types that might be relevant here. Let me just ask generally, anybody else on the call have any experience with Field Pro that might want to speak to the reporting and point Mickey in the right direction? Yeah, I'm thinking if here's a way that you could start, right? So if you go to your dashboard again and click on that one report. Let's just see that object name again. So if you click on view report under that fields group by object.
Cool. I
So
think that's over here.
yeah, so if you look in the top left here, you can see the report type,
Oh,
which is called Field Pro.
sorry.
So
Let me fix
you're
it.
good.
1 second.
Yeah, you're good to go. That's what we want to see. It just says Field Pro on the report type, right? So it's
Mhm.
showing all records of type Field Pro. Now, what you could do is if you open up the actual reports tab, so click on your 9 dots. I don't see the reports tab there, but if you click on that 9 dot thingy and then go to report and then go to reports, okay, and then click on new report. The very top right corner, there you go. And then from here, if you just type in Field Pro under search report types, make sure on the left it's set to all, which it is here. So this might be a place where you can start going through and figuring out what are the appropriate report types, what type of data it's going to pull back on the report. So, while the one you were looking at it looked like it was just kind of an aggregate of like a specific object. Some of these other report types might let you get down to the specific fields and other, information about them. So this might be a place to kind of start looking at the different reports that are available.
Gotcha. All right. Awesome. Yeah, I'll see if I can filter it down to leads. And just to confirm, so lead and contact, those are objects, right? And then
Yep.
there's fields inside of these objects.
Yep.
So I will try to fill if my work is supposed to be familiarized is supposed to be field specific to leads. What I want to do is filter this report by leads as an object, and then see all of those fields within it.
Yeah. So
And that's
let's give this a whirl then. Let's go back to your dashboard. And before you click on any view report here, let's just see what they have here. So it looks like fields grouped by field type. Okay, let's go with that one. Let's click on that view report there. Right. So that's going to take us in. It's not going to give us the information you want right away, but let's start here. Now
got
from this
you. And then
report,
we can filter it out because this will be for everything.
yeah, but from here, yeah, once the report renders, let's click edit. And first thing I want you to look at is on the far left, you see where it says fields with the little drop down or the little arrow thingy, like all the way to the left. Yeah, hit that guy. And let's just see if we can kind of glean, is there a field called like object or something like that, that if you just search for all fields, maybe, yeah, there you go, object label. So before we actually do anything, let's drag that over to the group rows. Let's group by object label just so we can kind of see what we're working with here.
Sweet.
Okay, and then let's get rid of that field type.
Right.
And
I don't care if it's
the
Boolean.
worst feature in Salesforce history, can you check the little toggle in the top right that says update preview automatically? Why would I not want to see my updated preview? Okay. So yeah, so it looks like that's kind of what we need. Now let's go to the filter tab that's on the left there. And let's add a filter for object label equals, no, just start typing in where it says add filter. So let's look for object label and click on that object label and then just type in lead and then apply. Okay, and now before we do anything else, let's go back to the outline tab. And I have to imagine that there is a field called like field or something. So maybe let's see here, subtotal group. Yeah, let's try to run it like this and just see what we have here.
Cool. Just hit run.
Yeah, let's see what it comes back with here. Okay,
Cool.
so we know we
595.
have, yeah, we got 595 fields. Now let's figure out how to get let's click on the detail row toggle in the bottom left there so we can actually see the field API names that we're dealing with. Okay, so yeah, there you go. So from this, you can then go back to your list of fields and start adding additional, columns you might care about for this report, and then save this, and this will be your list of lead fields.
Okay. So it'd be here in edit then to add the columns. It's
Yeah.
right here. Okay.
Yep. Specifically at the bottom there. And now that you're filtering down by lead, you probably don't need to group by the object label anymore because you only have one object. So you can probably get rid of that too.
Cool. Awesome. And so this is the number of, okay, cool.
Yeah. So you kind of play with that and that might get you in the right direction.
Sweet. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody have any follow-up questions or anything else they want to look at there?
Does that, I'm just curious, is there a column for namespace in there?
I don't know. Yeah, Mickey, you type that in. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
try
Namespace
that
prefix.
first one. So you
I
could
got
filter on, you could filter on
namespace.
that.
Oh,
You could filter on that actually, because anything that will have a namespace, unless you decide, as Bill said before, unless you decide to uninstall the package, you don't really have to go after it. I mean, you should really then discuss with the client what is the package doing and do you still want it?
got you.
Yeah. So that, like we said, the ones you can't
Mail
delete
change.
without uninstalling the package, you would be able to just filter those out. And basically, the way you would filter that, if you're not familiar, would just be on the filter tab, you set namespace prefix equals, and then just leave it blank.
Cool.
Yep. And just hit apply, and that would be it. And that'll get rid of all the namespace fields you have on the lead object.
Sweet.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
This might go without saying, but you won't see a full list unless you save and run. This is only a previewed list. So when you were seeing that namespace prefix earlier, there might be a lot
That's
more
why
once you run the
this one. Got you. Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you. It doesn't go without saying.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, just wanted to pop in there. Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So Mickey, I'm going to stop your sharing real quick. All right. Any other questions on that one? On reports, report types, Field Pro, anything like that? All right. Let's move on then. Megan, I see you have a hand up. What do you got?
Hey, has anybody used process instance step for anything? And here is my use case, and this is what I'm thinking. I'm trying to make it smoother. I have to create a flow that once an approval process hits a certain status, if it's there for 5 days or 10 days, it sends off an email to like the manager. But then there's a second level to that approval process. So it's the same status at a different approval process level on the same object. And it has to do it there as well. So what I thought I would do is go into the process instance step object and pull that in so that I could actually grab like the right one off of the record ID and do it off of the date it was created from there. I have figured out how to query it, but I can't figure out how to pull it into the flow. And I know that there's other workarounds I could do. Like I could create a bunch of like hidden fields that are date filled, you know, based on when the status is hit, because it's kind of convoluted. But I figure kind of like what we did with that stupid fiscal year object. I'm looking for other objects to use in my flows, basically, to cut down on all the building I'm doing in the background that nobody ever sees but me.
Okay. Let me say it back to you, and then we'll see if we can figure this out. So
I can say
basically,
it slower.
yeah. So you have an object that's going through an approval process in Salesforce, and you want it so that if that record that goes through the approval is stuck at a certain level of the approval for like, just let's keep it simple, just for 5 days, and it hasn't been approved yet, it hasn't been rejected, whatever, it's just sitting there waiting. You want to blast off an email to somebody to say, do something.
Yes.
Okay. And just to confirm, you don't want it so that when it reaches that 5 days, it like bypasses that approver, changes the approval or anything like that. You just want to just notify somebody with an email.
We just need to send out emails. The problem is it's 2 approval processes on the same object with the same statuses. So it gets, I just want to clean it up. And I figure if I could pull that in, Gosh dang it, I'm getting messaged on the side already that the answer is no.
Well, so here's the thing, right? My initial gut reaction to this is to say,
Oh.
the easiest approach would be to have a field, you're right, when it enters the approval process and it gets to that stage, if you just log the date and time on a specific field, then your flow can trigger off of that field. And of course, as part of the approval process, when it leaves that stage, one of your items in there is to blank out that field. So it resets it. So it's not going to trigger your flow, right? So I think you could do it with a field. It enters
I
that
wouldn't even
stage.
need it. I wouldn't even need it to blank out because it would just be once the next step is done, because it's going to look for it in progress and within 5 to 10 days
Well,
of that date.
Yeah, so that's a thing. But where I was going with this next is
Oh, sorry.
your flow. Like if you have a field that's called date time that it entered this approval step, that your rule is that whenever that gets to be more than 5 days in the past, you're just going to blast out an email. If in the approval process you blank that out, that'll take care of that. Or you can handle it your way where you check in that field plus another field like a status or something. But what I was kind of thinking is that if you had a schedule triggered flow that runs on a nightly basis, whatever it is. And in your start block, you look for any record that field is populated that is more than 5 days in the past, and the status is X, then you send out your emails, right? So
Yeah. Okay. I'm just trying to figure. Okay. What I'm trying to differentiate is between the approval processes because it's
So
two steps.
one process has one field, the other process has a different field. Don't mix, no mixing of the fields related to the approval processes.
So it has to be one field for each approval process.
I would think so. Otherwise, I think it would get very messy to figure out what record is in which process and all that. So to keep it clean, this approval process is related to this field that's keeping track of how long that record has been in that process's logic.
I guess my other question is so I can't update those. So I'd have to create those fields and even update the fields themselves in the approval process.
That's key. Yes. When it enters that approval step,
It's
you
part
need
of
to
the
set that
step.
field. Yeah, you're setting that
Okay.
field to be that current date time that it entered. And when it leaves that step, you're blanking it out. So, and then some other things you could do if you didn't want to do it in the flow. I mean, you could say that once the record is approved and the status changes, then the status change could trigger the update to the field to blank it out. A lot of ways you can handle it, but one way or another, if that field, that date time field, has a date in it, it's assumed that when it reaches 5 days that it's going to blast an email out to somebody to do something.
I really hate this whole process. I'm not gonna lie. Who all is in here that I work with?
I honestly think that, yeah, I think that Salesforce approval processes is definitely one of those kind of neglected areas of Salesforce. I feel like it just hasn't been touched in so long that it's still very clunky to me.
I like though that we can use it within flows itself. So we trigger something that's like we have at a bunch of places where something happens and it's triggering another approval process in the background to automatically like run. I do like that. So I don't want to lose that. But yes, I do think like the whole interface just deserves a makeover. And also I need more practice with them. So
yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else have any thoughts on this? Other alternative options for solving this one? All right. Well,
Thanks.
as always, report back on whether that worked. You know, and just kind of speaking out loud here for a second, 2 approval processes on an object, I think that will work where you have a field for each of them. I could see how it can get pretty ugly if you had like 10 and now you have 10 separate fields and you're managing all that. That can be kind of a nightmare.
But for future reference, when I've talked to Salesforce, I want to be able to access this object here. I'm just going to put it in the chat because I was digging around in developer guides earlier. It's this thing.
What is that here? Let's see.
It's the field reference. It tells you everything that's on it. So it can tell you like the elapsed time in minutes. So if I could literally pull that into my flow, it would be so much easier. That's why
you can't pull it into a flow?
No, I haven't figured out how to pull this into my flow.
Okay, now
I can query it, but I can't I can't pull that object. I haven't been able to. It keeps giving me an error when I try to move on from it, just even typing, because I know there's some stuff you can type into Flow and stuff that doesn't necessarily like come up in
Yeah.
lists sometimes. So I was trying to do that, but I cannot get this guy in. And it says it's an object.
Let's just dork around with this real quick. So you're saying if I go to record triggered flow, we're going to create new automation here.
Yep.
What is this nonsense? Okay.
Oh,
So
did you get access to the new Flow stuff? Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know if
So
playful
process
book
exception is
targets
is another part in here, but it's not what I need.
we're looking for process instance step.
Yeah.
Flow orchestration instance step. Yeah.
Wait,
no,
go
I
back to
guess
work step. Go back to work step.
flow orchestration.
Go
Work
down work step
work step.
right there.
I think that's
I
a
found
different
process instance step.
You did?
Where?
I just typed process instance step and it came up.
In
Start typing
your-
the I. Yeah, in my in a get records here in my
Ryan, I'm not saying I don't trust you, but can we oh wait, okay, so it's in the get records. That's
a
a different
get
thing
records?
altogether. Okay, okay.
yeah.
Hold on a minute. So
Okay. All right.
Okay, where were
So-
you putting it at? What did I miss?
okay,
I was
hold on a
trying to
minute.
pull it from the object itself.
Oh, like the trigger on it. Gotcha.
Yes.
So
but that's
let's try
okay.
that with a get. So we did get records, object, process.
Aha.
Yeah.
My goal
so
this year
process
is to find the most obscure objects that none of y'all have ever heard of.
You're doing
Start
well so
using-
far, and
using
it's
them in my
been
flows.
cool. The fiscal year stuff was like game changer for the complicated formulas that I've seen people build to do the
Yeah.
same thing.
So yeah, I guess you could
Okay.
I'm not sure what
Never-
you would query your well actually, yeah, I guess
No, I just need to get it. I just
even
need
if
to
it was
get
a
it.
Yeah.
scheduled flow, you can do a get and do
Yeah.
what you got to do. Yeah.
All right, gotta go back to work. I'll listen
I
to all
still
y'all.
think the single field thing is a cleaner approach, but yeah, have at it. See what happens. Report back.
The
She's
fact
learning.
that I am having to go back and talk to people who no longer work on this, like, and I've had to talk to 2 people that helped build this originally that do not work on it anymore to like
Yeah.
figure out why they did what they did. So at least
Which
I'll
is-
put my notes in my flows.
Which is a much better situation than I, where I'm going through code and I'm saying, what the hell was I doing back then? So
That's your
similar, but different.
backslashes.
I'm doing that
Backslash, give
right
yourself
now with
comments.
the flow.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
You know, there was a session, and then we'll Sandy, then we'll jump to your question. But there was a session that we were talking about with Salesforce around flows, and one of the suggestions I made was I would love it if it was like Flow Builder just combined a few more features of like Lucid Chart, where you could add comment blocks or little sticky notes or things like that, so that as you're building these huge complex things, you'd be able to put kind of notes in context. I don't think it's going to happen, but I made the suggestion nonetheless. So,
That is awesome.
all right, let's see. Sandy, what do you got?
I am trying to figure out how to use DevOps Center. And the instruction sucks. So
Um,
I don't know if anybody else actually uses it or has resources to a very dumbed down version of it, because everything I have found seems to be more about people who are developers and kind of have that frame of mind. So it's like I'm trying to figure it out. It's a really slow process because I feel like I have to learn a lot of other things first before I can go and figure out how that part works.
let me
If there's nobody in here who does this, I can put you in contact with our admin if you want to like maybe meet with her in the next week, because that's what she's using now for our internal org. If
Yeah,
so,
and I'm trying
if
to
we don't
test
find
it
anything.
out first, and so it's even harder when you're trying to set it up with a, like a dev environment instead of your actual own
me-
org.
so just to kind of take a step back here, for those that might not be aware, myself included in that group, let me just say what I think DevOps Center is, and then you tell me if I'm on the right track, and then I'll give you my opinion on it, right? So from what I understand, DevOps Center is essentially like a developer console on steroids, where you could like write code and then you can deploy it from one org to another. Is essentially that like almost like VS Code, but in the cloud, kind of?
effective, but it's also supposed to be a place where non-developer people can also try to, it's basically supposed to be a better replacement for change sets so that you can actually track things. It's a little bit like Capado, but within Salesforce itself.
You can
Okay,
also
every
actually
s-
move metadata as well. And like when you're moving in flows and stuff, you don't have to activate them. Everything moves in exactly how it would be in your sandbox without having to go in and do all the extra little stuff. And you can see the movement a lot cleaner.
And then,
It's
and that's
just that
also
it's
a
hard to
better.
set up. People, there's not clear guidance yet. It doesn't back promote. It's like a Capado light that doesn't do all the same kind of features as other DevOps yet. And any single idea on the idea exchange that references change sets, you'll see an update from Salesforce on answered by DevOps Center. They're basically kind of like how go back a couple of years and there were no more improvements to Process Builder. Didn't matter. We just wanted a cleaner list view. They said no because it's going away. And they're doing that with change sets now. And their answer is DevOps Center replaces it.
If I was a
Frustrating.
DevOps center, where would I be? I guess here. So what do you have to do to enable this thing? Is this can we give it a whirl or what here?
You have to enable it and then you have to install the package.
Oh, that's lame. You gotta install a package for it to work. Come on.
And you also have to go to Dev Hub and do the tracking so that it tracks your source code.
Okay,
then
so
you
I
have to
probably can't do this in a playground org. I'd have to do it in one of my
Yeah.
scratch orgs or something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, and they have like help stuff, and they're like, if you don't want to do it in your production, because you can't do it in Sandbox. So I tried spinning up a dev org because I don't want to put it in our production until I figure it out. But then trying to link the dev org, so like you have your dev org, but you can't link where you're working from because it only tries to send you then to a Sandbox, and I don't know how to. And so then,
All right,
so then I'm
let's-
trying to figure out how to spin up a scratch org because I've never done that before, and I'm failing miserably. So
All right, so I do have a scratch org handy here. So let's just give this. I'm going to time box this to 3.5 minutes. So let's see if this works. Nobody keep time though, because I don't know if I'm going to. Let's see, Dev Ops Center. So this scratch org is already configured with a Dev Hub and all that kind of stuff. So in theory, I should be able to. I really shouldn't do this. This is like my main dev org right now. But what's the worst
I
that
mean,
can happen, right?
it's not really going to break anything. It's just you're just going to ignore it. You're not use it, you know?
Okay, so we're going to install the package, which again, I think is lame that you have to do that for this thing to work. So it's basically like a glorified App Exchange app is what I'm installing here. And it leads me to wonder why I would do this instead of just using VS Code to begin with. So.
Yeah, and I can't figure out VS Code either.
So fun fact, Bill, starting next week, I get to be a guinea pig. Our company is going to start doing an internal VS Code training, and I get
nice.
to be the first one to go through it
Wait, what's this for?
for my company. So when I start learning VS Code, Sandy will start having to hook up and like talk about it.
Yeah, just like put me in a huddle and I'll just like watch your screen while I'm doing my own work, and I'll be on silent and
Sounds awesome. I love it.
So okay, kidding aside, I don't know how long this is going to take, so we'll let it spin here. But just one thing to speak about VS Code. VS Code is amazing for a lot of other things besides just writing code, right? So even something as simple as we'll let this sit here. Let's just say you want to pull like logs from Salesforce, and then you want to be able to search on a given string or something like that. So like just as an example, if I go into VS Code and I type in, if I get rid of Zoom here for a second, but if I just type in something like get Apex debug logs, and then I pick a specific log, and then this is what you would pull up in the dev console, and of course you could search for debug, or you click on the show debug only. But from VS Code, I have a plugin that does filter lines containing, and I could type in, and now it's just going to show me the lines that have user debug. So you get the idea. Like you could do there's just so much you could do with the number of extensions that are available for VS Code, text manipulation and log analysis and all kinds of stuff. So it's pretty slick. Definitely worthwhile just to install it, even if you didn't connect it to Salesforce, just to use it for a variety of things.
I can't figure out how to connect to Salesforce. I keep getting an error.
I would be delighted to schedule a time and go through that with you. I think we can figure that out pretty quickly.
Okay.
I love
Yeah, so
using it to review Apex code too, because it changes all the colors, so it makes it easier to look at, and then you can expand and contract your for and if statements.
yeah, and I'll try to show an example of that. Let me pull up something that isn't like Secret Squirrel. Let's see. Be a good one. Go with this one. All right, here's a test class as an example. Let me share my screen. So this is what it kind of would look like. Where, you know, this is your Apex code, and then if you wanted to, like, you know, close down a section where, you know, you don't care about that method and you just want to kind of contract it, you can do that. So yeah, it's a great tool to learn, even if you're an admin. I think it's great, especially if you can connect it to Salesforce and you can back up, you know, flows with it, and you can back up your code with it. You can do all kinds of stuff. So
is there a good place to learn that where it is dumbed down? Because every time I try to find anything, I just feel like, because I don't have a lot of background in coding or any of that kind of stuff, that trying to follow what they're saying, it feels like I already have to know part of it. Like, you know,
yeah,
sometimes it'll be like, do this, run this command. And I'm like, how, where, how, you know, like a lot of that stuff is just like, I need more. Treat me like I've never done this before.
yeah, there's definitely a Trailhead module that kind of walks you through the installation and the configuration of VS Code and the Salesforce CLI and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And I
Never
did
getting
that.
into writing code, never Apex. You're not writing Lightning Web Components. It's just focused on getting it installed and getting the CLI set up.
I did that.
Okay. Like I said, we can, if we, maybe we need to have like an office hours session just dedicated to VS Code and walk through it.
It'd be cool. I mean, I want to start, like, I think I told you guys back in January how I was trying to do the Rad Women thing. So I got on the
Yeah.
wait list. So I'll apply again in August. But I know that is at least, I want at least enough knowledge on it to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Just a side remark on the trouble that you may be facing actually, Sandy, and it's a topic. Installing VS Code and anything you need for it is nothing that you can do like, oh, I'm going to start today and I'm going to finish it next week, because in the meantime, some packages might be outdated again. There's a lot of development going on for example, Java that you need and other packages. And if you and then suddenly things don't work, don't connect or whatever. I had it on a new Mac where it just wouldn't recognize certain things, and I had to like change some paths in my system. But that's something you then, once you see that, you know, okay, regularly update it, regularly get the newest whatever. Well, not the newest necessarily, but you want to be up there.
Yeah. I think when it comes to Java and all the other configuration of the CLI, I think once you get it set up, for me at least, it's been very stable. The only thing I do every once in a while is do the CLI update command, and it updates you to the latest like command line interface. I might suggest, and kidding, but I might suggest uninstalling Mac and installing Windows on that device that you have there. That's just my opinion.
I have a limited amount of stuff I can do to my work computer.
Yeah. Are you on a Mac or a PC?
Mac.
Say that again. You broke up.
Mac.
Okay. Well, then I might be of limited use, because as far as like the installation, configuration, environment variables, all that kind of stuff, Windows I'm good, but Mac I have zero experience.
Maybe I'll
So,
just grab my computer then and we can do it on mine.
Yeah.
Because at least I know Windows and PC way better. Everybody else in the company is using a Mac, and I was given the choice. I'm like, let's go with everybody else is doing, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to be suddenly the problem child because it's not working the way everybody else does it.
Everybody had a Mac
But-
and jumped off a bridge.
But I have a Mac, and I'd be happy to join the call and help out.
Yeah, well, I'll try to get something scheduled. I think that would be good. Maybe we'll do it as like a open Q&A after hours, like at 1 o'clock or something next week or something, just to see if we can do it. But yeah, happy to schedule time with you one-on-one or 2-on-1 and go through that.
Awesome. And if I do figure it out eventually, I plan on writing something up, like a hey, here's the dumbed down version and the actual step by step for those of you who have no idea how this stuff works, because it's taken.
Hey, one last comment, then we'll go to Philip's question. One thing I'll say is things like setting up VS Code on your computer. You'll notice that as you go through the steps, there's a lot of like, okay, just install this thing and then run this command and then update this environment variable. There's a lot of stuff, and sometimes it's kind of spread across multiple different support docs that you have to go through. So while you're going through that, it's never a bad idea to have like a notepad up on one side where every command that you execute, everything that you install, just keeping kind of a running log of that. And then that way, when you get your new computer or your computer dies and you got to set the same thing up on another one, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You at least have a reference there of what you did last time and kind of follow along with that with your support docs. Because again, these things, once you get them installed, a lot of times you don't touch it ever again. Like you do it one time, and a year from now, when you have to do that thing again for one time on your new computer, it's kind of having to go back and refigure it all out. It can be a headache. So, yeah. So let's do this. Philip, you have a question? What you got?
Really, it's pretty easy. We're looking at the GuideWire app from the App Exchange, the one that links with Salesforce, and I'm just looking for someone who has experience with it and getting their thoughts.
Does anybody have any experience with GuideWire, which I've never heard of? I'm going to Google it right now.
It's a insurance policy product.
Ah, okay. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's pretty niche. I don't know how many folks that we're going to have with experience with that, but has anybody worked with that?
I've never heard of it, but we actually have several insurance clients, so that's kind of interesting.
GuideWire, integration with Financial Services Cloud.
That's probably why none of ours are actually on Financial Services Cloud.
Yeah, world-class customer engagement. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that. Let me just ask you this, Phil. What is your specific question? Just looking for somebody that can give you a kind of lessons learned, or are you running into an issue?
Just lessons learned. So we're looking at moving or potentially moving to that. And so we're like, hey, let's make things easier with integration and pulling in the info. So
yeah. Unfortunately, I have very limited experience with Financial Services Cloud and absolutely no experience on GuideWire to share, unfortunately.
That's all right.
Yeah, that being said, if you do set up a call with that company and they give you a walkthrough, and if you are able to join a follow-up call, kind of give us an update of what it is, how it works, I would love to hear more about that.
Will do.
All right, let's see. Rusty, you have your hand up. What do you got?
Yeah. I'm newer to the ecosystem. I've got a few certifications, and I'm in the whole interview process. And I guess my question would be, I need experience, and so what would you guys recommend that I could be doing to sort of continue learning as I'm looking for that first job?
Yeah, let me poll the group here. Does anybody have any feedback before I give my 2 cents?
I
Kelly,
just
did
have
you
the
have
standard, look for volunteer work, look for local, meet up with people, see who's got what, sign up for Clicked, sign up for anything that'll give you exposure to other people, start building your own experience cloud page, start tracking what you're studying, make sure you're doing super badges, things that are actually applicable. That's what I got.
I'm a big fan of the idea of getting Experience Cloud set up to be your resume that you can refer people to. And if you as you learn Experience Cloud, add different features, so you can put more interaction there, and so that gives you a great way. That's proof that you've got that experience, and yeah, to get your information out there.
Full disclosure, I never did the Experience Cloud, Steve. I should have, but I was doing all the other things.
There's a lot to do, and it's overwhelming sometimes.
I just put a link to a community group cite in the chat. For me, just being part of community, like seeing real people in person really helps. Making connections that way and just having someone to talk to is super good.
Especially when you recognize them in person.
Yeah.
That's a good point. They're taller sometimes.
I think
Yeah,
the
right.
other thing that helps
Kelly, what
too
do you got? Sorry.
is if you know, like if there are companies that you know that use Experience Cloud, you can make a list of those. If you don't talk to people and find out who uses Experience Cloud, there is a Chrome extension called Built With. It won't tell you if the company uses Experience Cloud, but it will tell you if they use Marketing Cloud or Sales Cloud in general, right? So even before you even go to ask, if a company even uses the baseline infrastructure, but if you're specifically looking for Experience Cloud, talk to people, make a list of companies, and then what you do, it's like I tell anybody that's new to the ecosystem that's trying to get in, I'm like, sometimes it's not about getting the first Salesforce job, it's about getting Salesforce adjacent. So I use the Built With extension to let me know which companies have the infrastructure. And then I get in there and find out who the Salesforce team is and let them know I want to be part of UAT testing. I want to be a super user. I want to align with their team to help them drive their initiatives. And usually I find a lot of people get adopted and get their first entry point into the ecosystem with a real Salesforce job by just being Salesforce adjacent. And so using that Chrome extension is a great way to kind of target which companies have the infrastructure that you ultimately want to get your hands in.
Yeah, it's good feedback. Just looking at time, we got about 5 minutes left. Let me throw one other thought out there. And for those that join these calls on the regular, this I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but one other thing that I think is important when you're learning the platform, Experience Cloud aside, if we're just talking about the straight up Salesforce platform and you're trying to get experience there to try to get your first job in Salesforce, one of the things I like to tell people is find something that you're interested in and just build something. Sign up for a dev org and build something that you already have experience in. So now you can build an app around that thing. So a couple examples that I've seen, for myself, I created an app to keep track of my wine brewing, right? So like the different batches and the different levels, when you're specific gravity levels that you're checking every couple of days and things like that. Basically building an app around that. So starting out simple, you have your objects and you have the different fields you need. You have your lighting pages and your page layouts that you're setting up around that, and the apps and the reports, stuff like that. Taking it to the next level, if you get really good there and you want to learn Lightning Web Components, then maybe you build one that is a custom UI around that thing, again, that you're just building. So in other words, when you go into an interview and they say, well, do you have any experience with Lightning Web Components? You can say, not professionally, but let me show you what I built, as part of my hobby. And at least it's something that you can show that like you're doing something. So, whether it's wine brewing, Formula One race tracking, whatever, the Westminster Dog Show, keeping track of stats or something. I don't know, whatever it is that you're passionate about, find something and just build an app around that thing.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's see. Anybody else have any thoughts on this topic? Or any
Bill,
other feedback?
for that, are you just using a dev org?
Yes. So for when I would recommend that if you're building a custom project like that, I would say go to developer.force.com and you should be able to sign up for a dev org from there. I believe it's similar to the playground orgs that you would get through Trailhead, but I don't think it has like all the nonsense pre-set up in there, right? So dev org I think would be the way to go.
I was gonna say real quick, I don't know how many people have actually been utilizing the Trailblazer Career Marketplace, but you can go to that as well. And there's like a bunch of Salesforce admin jobs, licensing administrator, more system admins, hybrid jobs, associate tech specialists in Salesforce, customer support specialists. These are all in Atlanta because that's where you said you were from, right, Rusty?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can go to the Trailhead Salesforce.com. I threw the link in there and you can do it by your area. You can start looking that way too. I haven't used this a lot, but I have sent it to people who are asking.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other thoughts before we wrap up for the day? All right. So once again, thank you all for joining. Thanks for all the questions and all the feedback from everybody on the call. Hope everybody has a great weekend, and we will sync up next week. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Yes.